webinar. I'm Sally Arnold, to those of you who haven't met me yet. And what I'd like to do too is to give a big welcome to this large group of people who are listening here today. I know that there's a few people in the US and New York. There's also some in New Zealand, in my home country, and an even larger contingent here in Australia. So welcome, and I want to give you an incredibly value-packed webinar today. So let's go back to my slides now. Okay, so this webinar, as I said, is about falling in love with your career. It's about getting out of stuckness. It's about finding a way forward and actually being able to move ahead and move out of stuckness, to get back in love with your career. So what I'm going to do in this webinar is to go through the three really important points, the three most important points that are really, really going to be absolutely essential to falling in love with your career. And can I just ask at this stage, I'm not sure if you can see my slides or if you can see Sally Arnold on the screen. If you could just type in if you can see me or if you can see the slides. So I'm just double checking now. That would be great. Okay, so you can see me and the slides. Okay, cool. Let me just get out of the webcam. Stop. So let's keep going. And I gather that you can see me and the slides. So at this stage, I'm not quite sure, I'm sorry, what I need to do to be able to get rid of my, we can see only the slides now. Thank you. I've got a great technical crew in the Philippines. So let's just start. Okay, so falling in love with your career, as I was mentioning, is about three important parts. And these parts I'm going to move through really quickly. The first part is about creating a vision. The importance of having a vision. Without a vision, you're not able to get out of stuckness and start moving towards a career that absolutely fulfills you. The second part that we're going to go through is, how do you create your brand? How do you create a voice of authority? What you need to do is to look at your mindset. Your mindset is the key to having a voice of authority and creating a brand that makes you stand out. And the third part is putting this all together into a game plan, into an action plan to make this happen. This is so important. And what I'd like to suggest too is that I want to make this webinar really interactional. I want it to be a really valuable webinar so that you come away going, wow, I really, really, really know exactly what I want to do. I want to be able to really come out of this webinar knowing that I know how to turn my life around, how to actually be able to look at new ways of working, new ways of moving ahead. So I want to ask you a question at this stage, and I'd love you just to type into the chat box. What is your vision at the moment to move ahead in your career? Where would you like to be, say, at the end of this year? I'd just love to have some answers. Would you like to be in a new career? Would you like to grow in your career path? I'd just love to find out where would you like to be at the end of the year? So I'm just looking forward to receiving some messages here. I've got one here, to grow in my career path. This is so important, to absolutely be able to grow in your career path. Come on, guys. I'd love some more answers. Where would you like to be at the end of the year with a vision? Okay, it looks like the one that's come in is about growing in my career path. Okay, so there's a chat box if you're not actually familiar with a webinar that sits in the control panel. You just have to type into that chat box your answer to the questions. So the chat box, generally when I've been in webinars, is on the right-hand side. And you just see it's got chat on it, and you just type into that, or it's got questions, chat or questions, just type in there. So let's keep moving ahead. So I wonder why you've signed up to come to this webinar. Are you unsure? Are you puzzled? Are you confused? Are you lost? What's been happening in your life to make you sign up to this webinar? Do you feel that you've been stuck in a rut? Where are you going? Have you been on this wheel for a long time? And I know that this can be a really challenging place to be stuck in a rut and think, how am I going to get out of this rut? Where am I going to go? What am I going to do? Because I want to move into my dream job. So I want you for a moment to think about the end of the year, where you want to be. Do you want to be in a job that absolutely fulfills every part of yourself? A job that makes you go, wow, this is so important. I want to be in a job that fulfills every part of myself. But are you still stuck in a maze? Is your career going sideways? Is it going upwards, downwards? Do you feel that you're going up a ladder, down a ladder? Do you find it really hard to put a plan together? Where are you? And this is why this webinar is going to be so important, because in the time that I've got with you, we're going to go through vision. We're going to go through the really important part of having a voice of authority and then putting a game plan together. So I want you to think just for a moment, what would it be like if you could wake up every morning? You were full of excitement and enthusiasm for the day ahead. You get out of bed, you know, you've got a spring in your step. You go out for a run, you might walk to the gym, you might sit down and have a coffee, you just do whatever it is that makes you feel absolutely alive. I know for myself, I sort of go out into my courtyard garden, and that just makes me go, wow, this is such a fabulous, fabulous day. And just start thinking to yourself, this is the best part of the day because I'm going to be immersing myself in the new lifestyle that I'm now living. And just pause for a moment now. And I want you to just think as you walk out of your door, you go back to how your life was for many years. You know, you put up with a career in a business that was not going anywhere, one that was stuck. You were stuck. You really didn't look forward to Sunday evenings because you'd think about, oh my gosh, on Monday I've got to go into that job that makes me bored, that makes me feel flat, and at times is really damn right depressing. And maybe you kept thinking, why have I put myself through all this training and my university courses to be stuck in this dead-end job? My ladder's against the wrong wall. And yet, I haven't got the guts and the courage to ask for help and to take responsibility for my life instead of blaming. So I want you just to think of that time where perhaps at the end of the year you could be walking through your door absolutely feeling alive and going, my gosh, my life now has changed and I've done this with some help. And at the end of the webinar, I'm going to ask your permission to put an offer out to you with a questionnaire and a way to be able to, you know, have a short conversation with me to help you be able to move ahead and out of stuckness. I remember many years ago when I was living in Byron Bay, I had a situation where I was feeling really, really, really stuck. And at that time, I thought, how am I going to lift myself out of this? How am I going to move myself ahead? And I have to say, it was going back to my inner passions. And this is what I want to encourage you to start thinking about. What are your inner passions? What are the parts of yourself that bring you alive? For me, it was music. It was about getting back in touch with music. Once I started to do that, it was like the elephant. I started to lift myself up out of stuckness and start to move ahead. So at this point, I want to just stop for a moment and I want to ask you, how would it feel to be able to lift yourself out of stuckness? I just love some words that you can type in the chat box. What would it make you feel if you could walk out of that door every morning feeling alive? Okay, guys. I'd love you to just start thinking about what would it feel like? What would it feel like? And at this stage too, I'd encourage you to ask some questions about where you're at in your life, because this is going to really help to frame the webinar as well. Oh, great. I've got one question now. The question is, I get excited when I begin a new job, and then after several months, I go back into the same old rut. Do you have any suggestions? This is such a good time for this question. As we all probably know, we get excited when we move into a new role. There's anticipation. There's thoughts of, gosh, this job is going to move me ahead. This job is going to excite and inspire me. But unless we've done a lot of work on ourselves and we've put a plan together and we've been through the mindset that can quite often stop us moving ahead, we're still going to fall into the same pattern. We're still going to find it really hard to move ourselves ahead in our career. It's really, really important when you start to think about, okay, moving into a new job, this will make all the difference. But it's also about the section that I'm going to be talking about, really getting in touch with your voice of authority and knowing your mindset. It's like your mindset is a part of yourself that can move you out of the same problem that happens every time you go into a new career. You've got to think about, how can I move out of this headspace that is stopping me moving ahead? So I wonder how many of you on the call today have thought about, which ladder do I go up? I've been up one ladder, I've been down one ladder. Where do I go? How do I move from one place to another? And that ladder always seems to be against the wall. But help is at hand. So let's move into the first part of the sections that I'm going to talk about today. The first part is visioning. How do you create a vision? And what is a vision? The vision is the start of moving out of stuckness, of falling back in love with your career and being passionate about a life that is really intoxicating. So I want to give you my take on visioning. Visioning for me is about going within and really getting in touch with images and ideas that sit within you and bringing those to the surface so that you get exceptional results, so that you get a way to move forward. It's absolutely fantastic. It's really, really important to be able to move ahead. I think I've got some questions here. Just let me see. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I've got one here. This is really important. And let's just go back to the section where people were saying to me about, I'd asked for some thoughts on what's stopping you. Someone had said they want to feel fulfilled. Someone had said, I'm finding it hard to put a plan together. Another person has said, I've been repeating the same old patterns and I want to change the patterns. Another person has said, I've got my fingers in a number of pies and I'd like to get clear again, to be more specific. Find my passion. Fantastic. I absolutely love that. Find my passion. This is what the visioning part's about. And I'd like to be in a new career, a career. Just a sec. I like to be in a new career, a career that I'm happier. Fantastic. There's some great comments coming through. Energized, accelerated, excited. So thank you. So let's keep going with visioning. And I'd like you to ask, as I said, ask questions as I move through, because I'm really happy to stop and answer those questions. This is incredibly important. So staying with the visioning. When you put a vision together, you're able to put your ideas, your images into a format and look at an end result and start seeing exceptional results. It's no different to a musician. When I was a musician, I'd always have a vision about a performance that was, say, 3 months away. And what I'd start to do was to see that performance, start to plan that performance, and then start to put an action plan, start to practice whatever I needed to practice, and step by step by step, I would work towards that performance date, because I knew that I had to stand up on stage. I had to perform in a way that absolutely stood out. And I have a great way of helping people to start thinking about visioning as well. If you look at this dog here, I've got a very similar dog, so I love this slide. And I always say to some of my clients, or to most of my clients, imagine your life now without 3D glasses on. You go and see a movie. You might go and see Avatar. You go and see the movie, and it's a great movie. You enjoy it. Then you go back a second time, and you put the 3D glasses on. So what is it that you see that you didn't see before? What is it that comes alive? What is it that inspires you when you see that movie? What is it that brings that picture alive? It's almost like you can touch it. You can see it. So I want you to start thinking about your life at the moment. Just imagine for a moment, and if you type into the question box, because I now know where to find it, what would it feel if you put on 3D glasses and started to look at your life now in a way that you knew could inspire you? What is it that you're not noticing? I just want you to start thinking outside of the square. Aha, I put 110% of myself in. I put 100%, here, no, this is a comment. I put 110% of myself into everything I do and burn myself out. I need a break before I can take on the next role. As I get older, it takes longer to recover. I'm repeating old patterns and need to access my passion. How do I find the courage to tap into my passion and not repeat old patterns? This question, can I say to the person who's asked it, I'm going to be going through this question in the second section. And this is in the section on your voice of authority and mindset, because this is all about mindset. This is a fantastic question. And I will remember to look at this question and to answer it in the next section. So let's stay with the 3D glasses. Just imagine you've got 3D glasses on now. What does it feel like? If you look at your world through 3D glasses, what are you seeing? And to help you even more, imagine going down into a cellar. You've got a cellar in your house. You haven't opened up the trapdoor for years. You walk down into that cellar. And when you walk down, you see all these amazing treasures that have been sitting there for years and years and years. You dust them off. And you go, wow, I didn't know that I had these treasures sitting down here. You bring these treasures back up to the surface. You start to look at them in a new way. And in a metaphorical way, this is exactly what you've got inside. You have all the resources inside. You need to be able to go down into your cellar, to bring them back up, to dust them off, and put them together in a new way, to give you a new vision of your life, a new way to move ahead. So are there any more questions about this little section before I move on? Okay. I've got a question here about going down into the cellar. Do my clients find it challenging to go down into the cellar and brush off everything that's been sitting down there? And do they find that they've got a new vision of life when they come back up? Absolutely. And this is one of the challenges. It's about going within. It's about really going within and looking at the parts of yourself that you've let go sideways. You've let those parts sort of not become the essential part of yourself. You've forgotten about them. And to give you a good story, I remember many years ago when I was in Byron Bay, that was a time of new directions. Would you believe it? As a professional flautist, I started to dust off my flute, and I literally did dust off my flute. I picked it up, I started playing, and what it did for me, it meant that I wasn't ever going to be a professional flautist again, but it got it back in touch with my heart and with my soul, and it took me back to the time when the flute was my reason to be. It was my reason to live. It was my reason to have a life that, my gosh, turned from black and white in Christchurch to colour. It really made me aware that music, as I said earlier, was going to be an essential part of my life, and that I was going to basically live my life in an extraordinary way. So let's keep going with the visioning section. Now that you've got your 3D glasses on, you've got a great way to be able to turn around outmoded ideas. As I said, visioning is about going within. It's about getting back in touch with the vision that you have inside. It's about being a Richard Branson, about being a visionary, about a Mother Teresa, going within and starting to think, what is it that I want to really do in my life? What is it that inspires me? What is it that absolutely turns me on, that makes me absolutely want to move into a new role and be excited about this role? And to finish this section, I just want to give you a quick story about a client of mine that went through this visioning section into a new role. I met her at when I was speaking, oh gosh, was it last year? And she came up to me at the end of the talk and said to me, firstly, she loved the boots that I had on, and we started just talking about fashion and clothes, etc. And then in the conversation, she mentioned to me that she was in this career that she'd been in for 6 or 7 years. She was bored, she was stuck, and she didn't know how to get out of the career. So we had a chat, we had a coffee and we had a chat, and then I asked her further about, did she really, really want to move out of stuckness? And she said yes, but she had no idea how to do it, and it was scary. So long story short, she embarked upon a coaching program with me. And it was really so extraordinary to see a woman who was in what I call a beige career. She was in a career that paid her a pittance. She was senior management, but she was paid really badly. She just went to work every day, in and out to work every day. And then suddenly with the coaching, she saw a new way of moving ahead. She put a vision together and she said, oh my gosh, I haven't seen these parts of myself. I haven't had the confidence to be able to move ahead. And she went, wow, I now know what I can do. And she's a really funny lady. And she went out and she brought a great pair of heels. She said, okay, for the interviews that I'm going to be I'm going to be wearing these heels. These are my good luck shoes. And would you believe it, within 3 months, she had an amazing new job. Her salary had gone up 50%. That to me was extraordinary. She was absolutely on speed. And she actually got the job that she really, really, really wanted. Her job, in fact, meant that she went up several levels, and the organisation that she worked for said to her, "You are the most valuable team member we've ever had." In the old job, she'd been told that she wasn't a team player. And to cap it off, she's now up in Queensland out of the Melbourne winter. She's been seconded to work up in Queensland for 3 months. Fantastic story. So just to bring the visioning section to a close, there's 3 things to remember with visioning. To absolutely go within, to start to explore the hidden resources that you have within. And to do it, you need to start looking at your life through 3D glasses. Even if you drive to work in a different way, start thinking of doing things in a slightly different way. And then you have an exceptional way to turn around stuck and outmoded ideas. So before I move into the next section, I'd like to ask you, what is it that you would want to, where would you want to be at the end of 3 months? I know I asked that question earlier, but now that I've been through the visioning section, I'd love to know where you'd want to be. Just waiting for some answers to come up here. Okay, so someone said here that they want a full-time job and paying enough. Hey, that's fantastic. Thanks for that comment. This is so essential. It's about being paid what you're worth. It's about being valued. And thank you for that answer to the question. I want to emphasize that it's absolutely about being valued. And this is now going to lead me into the second section, which is about having a voice of authority, being heard, and really understanding what your brand is. So for a moment, I want you just to think about what is the brand that you represent to the world at this stage? If you had to walk into a networking meeting and introduce yourself, how would you introduce yourself? What is your brand? What is it that you represent? So just think for a moment. What is it that makes you stand out from anyone else? What is it that absolutely goes within and helps you to connect with your voice of authority? What's that voice that you've been afraid of absolutely bringing to the surface at this stage? So just start to think of your brand as being a way to pitch yourself. So just start to think about, what is it that I would want to do when I look at branding myself? What is the pitch that I'm going to present to the world? So let's start thinking about, how do you pitch yourself? What do you need to say about yourself? How do you need to move yourself further forward? So the simplest way to think about your brand, your voice of authority, is to go within again and start to think about, this is who I am. This is what I want to represent. And the way to do this in a simplistic way is to take out a sheet of paper and to list all your achievements, to list what it is that's turned you on. What are the things that you've achieved in your life? I did this recently with a client. I got her to put a piece of paper together, and she was going to a networking meeting. And she said to me, I'm not really sure of how I'm going to introduce myself. So what do I do? How do I do it? And what I said, you just start to imagine it's a show and tell. You're a kid at school. You're absolutely going to nail this. You're going to go to the networking meeting knowing who you are, telling everyone what you've done, how you've done it, and what excites you. So I want to ask you the question, if you had to put together a show and tell, what would you be doing? What would you be putting on that paper? So I want to ask you a question. What would you do? Come on, I'd love some answers now. What would you put on that paper? Okay, someone here said the achievements that they forgot about many years ago. Okay, this is so important. This is incredibly important to remember. We forget what we've achieved. We forget, and this is the important part of being able to pitch yourself. It's about remembering who you are, what you've achieved, being able to put this together, being able to absolutely be more confident, to have your voice of authority, to be able to stand out. And I want to connect this back to a question that was asked earlier about, I just need to go to this question about mindset challenges. Just finding the question, here it is. Okay, as I get older, it takes longer to recover. I'm repeating old patterns and need to access my passion. How do I find the courage to tap into passion and not repeat the old patterns? So this is the ideal time. This is all about mindset. And I want to just quickly go through how our mindset can affect the way that we pitch ourselves and the way that we absolutely can connect with our brand. This is a 1-minute Sally Arnold version. So when we're born, we're a sponge. Our brain absolutely absorbs as much as it can absorb. But just think about what is being said around us at the time. You're not good enough. Who do you think you are? Why are you doing this? So as we grow up, basically, these thought patterns get embedded in our brain. They start to move deeper into our brain, and we begin to believe them. They're not true, but it's because they've been around us. So what we have to do is we've got to connect with these thought patterns. And in psychology, we call them tape loops. They go round and around and around and around, and we get stuck in them. So when we're in a situation where we're pitching ourselves, when we're at a networking meeting, quite often those thought patterns will come up and we'll go, okay, I am stupid. Why did I do this? Don't stand out. And you have to find a way to be able to stop yourself absolutely immediately from putting that thought pattern forward. And a really good way is to just be conscious, remember it, and reframe it. Instead of going, why would I say that? You need to reframe and say, I can say this. I can stand out. I am able to do this. I am able to move out of stuckness. So has this helped you, just this little 1-minute section on your brain? And I want to finish it off by saying that several years ago, I actually heard an interview with Hillary Clinton when she was here in Melbourne. And it was with some girls at Melbourne University. And one of the questions that was asked of Hillary Clinton was, do you ever suffer from lack of self-belief and self-worth? And this really helped me. Hillary rolled her head back and she laughed and she said, all the time, she said, every day, she said, I suffer from that. But she said, the key to it is, I now know how to work with it. I now know how to turn it around. So this is such an important thing to remember. She knew how to turn it around. So are there any thoughts, any questions? Have I answered that question from the person who said that you put everything into yourself, you burn yourself out, you're repeating old patterns? If you can just type in if that's helped you, or if you've got some other questions you wanted to ask. Okay, I've got another question here about mindset challenges. Someone said they find this harder as they get older. And this can be the challenge. As I mentioned before, as we get older, and if we're not aware of our mindset, of the negative thought patterns around us, they become part of our life. They become our best friends. They sit with us. They sit with us all the time, and we can be doing some amazing work, but suddenly those thought patterns come in and they stop us in our tracks. I remember I had a client, about 3 or 4 years ago, and she came to me because she was going through the same challenge. She was an older woman. She was in a really senior role working for a government organisation here in Melbourne. And she said there are a lot of younger people snapping at her heels, and she was self-doubting herself all the time. She said, Sally, she said, I just don't know what to do. She said, I really feel like I don't know how to move ahead. I don't know what to do. And she'd lost a sense of self-belief and self-worth within herself, which at her age and stage in life didn't need to happen. So I have to say, after several sessions, it was a couple of months of coaching, and we'd gone through the visioning and we were working through the mindset stuff. And I actually said to her, I said, I just want you to go back and remember, what actually have you achieved in your long career? And suddenly the woman looked at me and said, oh my gosh, I've forgotten about this award that I've won, this job that I had that was at this level. And she said, I've totally forgotten about it. She said, I've been so immersed in this stuck mindset, and younger people have really been hammering at my heels that I've forgotten about what I've actually achieved. So I said to her, okay, what you've got to do now is you must write this down. You must put a show and tell together. You must write this down, and I want you to absolutely start to take this into your body. And she did. And the reason she'd come to me was that she wanted to move ahead. She wanted to move into another career. And would you believe it? Within 2 months' time, I was so proud of her. She'd moved into a role as a director of another large government organisation. So it just shows you mindset, 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 mindset. So I want you for a moment now to think about the achievements. What are the achievements that you've put under the carpet that you've forgotten about? And I must admit, with many of my clients, when they're looking for new roles and they're showing me their covering letter, I say to them, wait a minute, you told me that you won the Dean's Award for this, you won that, you won this. So why is it you were the Telstra Businesswoman of the Year, you were a nominee? Why haven't you put this in your letter? Oh, they'll say, I've forgotten. So come on, guys, I want you to start thinking about your achievements. I'm sure that everyone on this call has some exceptional achievements, and I want to hear about them. I want to see them in the question box now. I want at least, I know there's 10 people on the 10, 12, 13. Oh, there's a heap of people on this call. I want to see the answers to these questions. What are your achievements? Come on, let's get a show and tell happening. Also, I need to say it's a great comment from someone here about it helps to hear that others suffer from self-belief doubts. Thank you. That's really fabulous. And I must admit, as a presenter, I keep forgetting to actually go into the question area and pull down all the questions that you've answered. So I've got to show answered questions now. Thank you for that. So how about the achievements? I'd love to hear about achievements. I'm not moving forward until I've had a few achievements sitting in that box. Okay, I've got a couple here. Someone's just said some of the business awards, some major business awards, they've totally forgotten about. They said, oh, but they were many years ago. But that's no excuse. You've got to really go within. It's about the achievements. It's about your achievements, where you've come from, what you've achieved. I want you to keep remembering your achievements, because this really helps you to turn around self-doubt and self-belief. This really helps you to come from your voice of authority. And also I want to add to the voice of authority. Quite often, because of lack of self-belief and self-worth, we doubt ourselves. If we want to speak up, we go, why would someone want to hear me? Why would someone want to hear about this part of myself? And I want to say to you, no, 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 no. You must embrace that voice that sits within. People do want to hear you. It's only those tape loops, the mindset tape loops, that are sitting there that have stopped you from really embracing that voice of authority. And would you believe it? Okay, here's a great comment from someone who turned around a group who were demotivated and disenfranchised by change. This is another achievement. And this is a major achievement. And I want to say to that person, this is something that is so powerful. If you can do this, if you can turn around a demotivated group, that's really hard work. That's really, really hard work. I want you to start to think about how often have you done this in your career and you've forgotten about it. This is such an important comment. So I'm going back to finishing off our voice of authority. I want you to go and really start to move within and imagine that you're at the next networking meeting you're at, and you're going to stand up there with whoever you meet and really, really let them know about who you are, what it is that you've achieved, how you've achieved that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you just keep going. Let people know what you've done. Embrace your voice of authority. Have a knockout pitch. Sorry, next slide. So, what are you going to do about this? How are you going to put together your voice of authority and stop that mindset so that you really embrace the brand that you are? And I'm going to finish with a terrific story from one of my clients who did all three. This client of mine is an amazing single mother. She's got 2 children. Unfortunately, one of them, a teenager, is into drugs. And so she's got a really challenging life. And she sits in a really senior role within a real estate company. And she was having incredible challenges with a guy who was one of her partners. And after working with me for a couple of months, she said, look, I just feel flat. I feel totally like I've lost my sense of self-belief and self-worth. He's challenging me all the time. I don't feel valued. I don't feel heard. I just don't know what to do. And she was absolutely losing her voice. And it just happened that I was on Facebook and I saw a photograph of her from many, many, many years ago, 10 years ago. Here was this hot chick. She looked extraordinary. She had long dark hair, a fringe, and she looked like a rock star. So I said to her, haha, I've seen this photograph of you. What's happened to the person that's sitting here in front of me? So I want you next week to come back looking like her. When she walked through the door, she looked amazing. Suddenly there was this different person that appeared, and she said, oh my gosh, Sally, she said, I've let myself be totally demotivated by this guy that I'm working around. He's, I won't say the word, but he's been so challenging. He's a shit. He's put me down, and I've lost my voice of authority. So just by her remembering how she was many years ago, and in a really funny way, by dressing in that way, she embraced her voice of authority. She became the brand that she is, and she's helped the mindset parts of herself to just slow down a bit. They never go away, and I need to say a negative mindset never goes away. But at least we have a way of actually being able to move ahead. So I just want to go back and recap over the section. Your voice of authority. Remember, 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 it's about your past achievements. This helps you to move into your brand, and it helps you to absolutely stop those negative, how can I put it, in these negative words, the tape loops, we call them, as I said, in psychology, moving around and around our head. And before I move on to the next section, I've got a question here from someone who says, how can I make myself accountable in creating a vision and changing my mindset? Essential, essential, essential. because I hear the story so many times. People come to me and they say, oh, look, I've put a vision together and I've decided I want to change my mindset. And I say to them, but wait a minute, what have you actually done about this? Have you put an action plan together? Have you decided to make yourself accountable? And they sort of look at me with a bit of a blank stare on their face and they go, no. So the essential part of changing your mindset and putting a vision together is to make yourself accountable. To get a coach, to get a mentor, to get a friend that phones in every week and asks you, where are you? You said that you were doing this. Why haven't you done it? I imagine it's no different than going along to Weight Watchers, and I think that's how they first started Weight Watchers, wasn't it? When you had to go along every week, and what you'd do was you'd get on those scales, you'd weigh yourself in, so you had to be totally accountable. So think about making yourself accountable by getting a buddy, getting a friend, having coaching or having mentoring. That is the way ahead. So are there any questions on this section at this stage? Okay, there's one reply here from one of the questions that I asked about achievements. This person said they made 20 people redundant in the US, and after the individual meetings were over, one of the people affected told me that if he could choose anything in the world to tell them that they'd been made redundant, they would choose me. I don't quite understand that. If you could choose anyone in the world to tell them that they'd been, oh, okay, I get it. So you obviously coped with a really challenging situation, and I would hate to have to do that. And this person that's put this comment in the chat box, I want to say to you, that's an extraordinary achievement. I don't even know how you would do that. It would be one of the hardest things to do, especially to let go of 20 people. So what I want to add to your comment, because I've seen some comments before, you obviously have some extraordinary skills within that you're not acknowledging. And I'd love you to sign up for the 15-minute session that'll be open at the end of this webinar today, because I believe you've got some exceptional talents, some resources within, but you're not actually using them in probably the best possible way. So I hope that helps you. So let's move into the final section, an action plan. An action plan is absolutely essential in being able to move a vision, your voice of authority, and your brand ahead. So what is an action plan? An action plan is a way forward. It's no different, as I said before, to actually being able to see the vision at the end of the year as a flautist, to know that I was going to be performing a Mozart concerto, whatever it was that I was going to be performing, and putting a step-by-step way of being able to get there. So an action plan can be weeks, months out, and you need to start looking at the end result and coming back in months and weeks towards that result. And I like to think of an action plan as actually being a bit like when we decide we're going to go on a great holiday. It's amazing the action that we get into. We Google where we're going to go. We Google the places that we want to go to. We Google the hotels that we might want to stay in, the food that we're going to eat. That is a fabulous action plan put together. And I quite often say to people, how about putting an action plan together that resembles an action plan from when you go on holidays? I remember a few years ago going to Cinque Terre in Italy, and honestly, I was mesmerized. Every night I would go into Google. I would find out the walks that I was going to go on. I would find out the towns that I wanted to stay in, and even some of the restaurants that I wanted to eat in. So I put an enormous amount of work into that action plan. So it's really important now to start thinking about, what is your action plan? Think of it like a holiday plan. What is your action plan to help you move out of stuckness and to help you fall in love with your career again? It's no different than being, as I said, a musician, or looking at a performance at the end of the year going, how am I going to do this? Being an athlete, knowing that you've got a race ahead. So what you need to do is to pull up everything from that cellar, get that vision happening, put on the 3D glasses, and then start to look at step by step. Make yourself accountable. Get a buddy, get a coach, and make this action plan absolutely happen. So someone's asked a question here about how do I keep moving along the action plan when I have days when I feel down? Is this all worthwhile? Terrific question, because this is exactly what happens. When we have an action plan together and when we decide to embrace our vision, there are days when we can go, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? There's peaks and there's troughs, and this is part of the change cycle. When you're moving out of stuckness, I can guarantee that this is going to happen all the time. But the first time is going to be by far the worst, and you're going to have someone that can help you move out of that place, because you'll stay stuck. A buddy, a coach, a mentor, because it does happen. You come away with this incredible vision. You go, wow, this is what I'm going to do. You go along the path for a month or so, and then suddenly something stops. It might be a comment that someone's made to you. Why are you doing this? Just stay in this career. You're well paid. Why do you think you want to move out of this career? And then you suddenly start thinking and going, oh my gosh, why am I doing this? This is hard work. This is where you have to go back to your mindset, as I mentioned previously. You have to start thinking about, what's my mind got to play with keeping me stuck? You must overcome this part of yourself. It's about reframing. It's about then going, I know that this is going to happen, but each time I go down into this trough, it's not going to be as bad. And I'd like $1 for every time I've told my clients that this is going to happen, because it does. It happens several times, but it becomes easier as they move along the path. Has this helped you? Just like to know from that person that asked that question, has this helped you? So if you've got any questions at this stage about moving along a vision path, I'd love to hear them. Questions about when you've been stopped and what stopped you, and how can you, I'd like them to be quite specific. What stopped you in the past moving along a vision path where you've actually stayed stuck and you've gone, I don't know how to move ahead? Let's see. Here's a question. Great question about vision too. And I'm in that age group too. How do you overcome ageism? I thought I could power through it, but I feel its presence affecting me. And for this person that's asked me this question, this relates back to what I just previously said about mindset. I know it's very easy because at times I can feel it, and we have to then start to really collect, especially the second part of this webinar, your brand together. You have to really start to look at your brand. You have to start to look at, what is it within me that I've forgotten about? That even though I'm getting older, there's something that makes me stand out from younger people that are around me. And to give you an example with this question, just think about the person that I mentioned about half an hour ago that I coached. She was a woman in her 60s who found that, she thought that ageism had stopped her in her tracks. And it was really, when we delved into it, we found that it was her mind. It was her mind that was stopping her. Even though there is ageism around us, it's about how we react to it. It's about our own self and our own sense of self. And I know at times I go, oh my gosh, when that person's looked at me, I don't like it. But then it's about the way that I present myself. And I think I know there's a great movie that's on here in Melbourne at the moment. Is it called Ita? About the 94-year-old woman in New York who who absolutely looks $1,000,000, and she doesn't conform whatsoever. And she, I haven't seen the movie yet, but she just goes around with these amazing clothes on. She looks wild. She's totally out there. And I believe as we get older, it's about embracing our own uniqueness. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we're sort of a bit eccentric. I just like to say, just embrace all the parts of yourself and really catch yourself when you're connected with that ageism suggestion, because when it happens, I'd love to know the words that come up, because yes, it is present and it is around us, but it's also about the way that we deal with it. So you need to reframe the thought patterns that are coming up at that stage. So I hope that's helped you. I'll just see if there's any more questions here. A great question, fear of the unknown. I can tell you this, the fear of the unknown is where self-doubt, self-belief and old patterns come back in. The fear of the unknown, I would say, probably sits within all of us. It's about really going back within and being aware of our mindset. And generally the fear of the unknown goes back to early childhood times when we weren't supported. We've thought we were supported and we've wanted to go out and make a really, do some pretty extraordinary things. And we haven't had that support, that sort of root, that the parental support behind us. So what you need to do in this fear of the unknown is to connect with a coach, a mentor, or a really good friend who can actually help you and be with you along the way. Because there's nothing worse than going along a road and not knowing which part you're going to go along. And I need to say to you, to this person who's asked this question, the people that have been extraordinarily important to me when I've been going along a path that's been unknown have been some close friends. I can remember when Tony, my husband, died several years ago, and my life was in absolute turmoil. I'd left my job at the Australian Ballet. I didn't quite know what path I needed to go on. I'd lost Tony, I had to start a new life, and I embarked upon psychotherapy training because I had to get my own mind together. And in that time, I met some extraordinary women who were very different to me, who didn't come from an arts background whatsoever. But during that time, there were people that I could confide in when I felt really down. There were people that I could actually talk to them really honestly about my fears, about where I was at, what was not happening for me. And just imagine there's a lot of A-listers, high achievers on this call. It's so important to ask for help, to let go of that ego part of ourselves. And I have two friends in particular I know I can call when I'm feeling really down, when I'm feeling like I'm not sure where to go or what to do. This will always happen in our life. So I hope this has helped. Just want to see if there's another question before it has helped. I love this. I think you're telling us to be spunky as we age. I love it. I need a friend like you too. I love that. I love that comment. Hey, let's get spunky. You made me really laugh. I love this. I don't know if the person who's made this comment has seen that movie. I'm not sure. I think you're in the US, aren't you? The movie IT, because it's a woman in New York. So if you haven't seen it, you probably can get it on Netflix or something like that. But it is about getting spunky. So I'm going to suggest to you that you sign up for my 15-minute call at the end of this webinar today. we can have a really good chat. So I want to bring the vision mapping now to a close, and I'm just going to bring up another slide, which shows you how another spunky woman. I have to laugh. That was such a great comment. Another spunky woman who was head coaching with me put a vision together and decided that she had a very short time frame. She had to put a plan together. She had a fear of the unknown because she didn't know where she was going to go and how it happened. So this client of mine was in a very high-profile job here in Melbourne with one of the largest Australian companies. She was made redundant and she was given 3 months' salary. It was one of these just shocking situations. And she came to me for coaching and she just walked in the door and said, I've got 3 months to turn around my life and to find a job because I've got a mortgage to pay, I've got all these costs and I've only been paid out for 3 months. So we worked on, firstly, a vision, her mindset and an action plan. And we knew that within 3 months, by the end of 3 months, she had to be sitting in a job that paid at least as much as the previous job. Long story short, and you can see her comments here. These are from this particular person. She made the decision she was going to get the job. She was going to get it within 3 months, and it was going to be out of the corporate arena as well. And to be honest, when she said that, I went, oh my gosh, this is going to be quite hard. Long story short, within 3 months, she had a job working at one of Australia's major universities, and she said to me, she said, Sally, I cannot believe it. She said, I'm in a role that I absolutely love. She said, I'm working 9 to 5. She said, I walk in the door at 9, I walk out the door at 5, instead of working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for this other large company. She's paid exactly the same amount. She's a totally different person. And what happened was that we put an action plan together. The action plan was that she had to find a job within 3 months. A hard one, but she worked on it. We worked on it together. She found her voice of authority. She didn't let that voice, after being let go of, take hold of her. She also put a vision together. And to celebrate, she actually took a trip to Italy. And I remember she came to me in the last session and she said, Sally, what do you reckon I should do? And I said, well, because I'm thinking of either going to Italy or repaying some more of my mortgage. And I said, look, I'm not a financial person. I can't answer that. I said, if it was me, I'd go to Italy. And she did. And she came back and she said, that was absolutely the best thing I've ever done. So to the person who asked the question about fear of the unknown and along a path that you don't know of, it's having guts and courage and having the friends that can really support you, as well as having a coach that challenges you and makes you go into that unknown, knowing that there is going to be a way ahead. There's going to be light at the end of the tunnel. So in bringing the webinar to a close now, I want to thank you for being on this webinar, and I hope that it's provided amazing value for you in getting out of stuckness and starting to fall in love with your career again, and that it absolutely is possible. It is possible. This is so important. This is so important. And I know from my own experience, without going into my own story, I've had to reinvigorate or recalibrate my life so many times. When you're a musician, I started out my career as a musician. It doesn't last forever, and it didn't for me because I'm slightly deaf. So I had to really start thinking about how I moved out of a career I was passionate about, how I recalibrated myself, how I went into a career that was passionate. So it is absolutely possible. So I want to thank you for being on this call. And what I'm going to put up now is the link to help you look at moving out of stuckness, moving into a career that you're passionate about. So what you just have to do is to click this link. And I'm not sure where you are in your career at this stage, but as many of you know, you can either do it the slow way, through trial and error, or from what you've learned today, or you can do it the fast way. So the first thing I want to say, there's no magic pill, but you can get results when you commit to unsticking yourself. So I want you just to think about, what's it worth to have a new job? What would it be worth to you to have a great income? And what would it mean to you to wake up every morning excited to go to work? So the first thing I'm going to ask you now is to book into a 15-minute call. And what I'm going to do is I'll ask you a bunch of questions, and there'll be a questionnaire that you can fill out. And if I can help you, I'll suggest that we have another chat. If I can't, I'll send you to someone that can help you. So what I'd like you to do, as I said, just click on this link, book in for a 15-minute session. As I said, I'll ask you a bunch of questions, and if I can't help you, I'll send you to someone who can help you. So thank you again for being on this call, and we've still got a few minutes. So I'd like to ask for some more questions, because I'm really happy to open up for questions and to take you off mute if you would like to. If you'd like to ask some more questions, I'm going to stay on the line for another 10-15 minutes. So you just need to type into the question box, and if you want to go off mute, that's entirely up to you. But I'm really happy to interact with you now. Okay, I've got a comment here and a question here that I'm going to answer. The hard thing about ego is that when I let it go, I feel it harder to sell my achievements. How do you find the balance? Yes, ego. That can be the biggest challenge. But I want to say to this person who's asked this question, is your ego your real self? Has this person been am I speaking to you? Are you there?
Yes, you are. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Is that Liz, is it?
Yes, it is.
Oh, fantastic. Look, thank you for that question. That's such a fantastic question. Are you in Australia?
New Zealand.
Are you in New Zealand? Oh, great. What part of New Zealand?
Yes. Auckland.
Oh, okay. I'm from Christchurch originally. My family is still in Christchurch, so I go back and forward to Christchurch quite frequently. So and see all that rebuilding. So this question, this is a fabulous question, and this is one that can really keep people stuck. Can you tell me a bit more about it now that I've got you off mute?
Yeah. Sometimes in my career, I feel as though there's decisions I've taken, and I've looked back, and the majority of that role, I've been really proud of my achievements, and then there might have been an element of it where, in hindsight, I felt that it hadn't worked out as well as it could have because ego had a place to bear in the decisions that I took. And so I then go the complete opposite and pull ego out of it, and then start asking myself the question every time I'm about to make a decision: is it ego that's driving this, or is it genuine intent? And then I start to get confused where the line lies, and the energy to put into something gets less because I get confused about whether it's genuine intent or ego that's driving it.
Okay, cool, I get it. So if you remember the section I spoke about when we talked about your voice of authority, it's really important to start thinking about, Liz, your voice of authority, and what is your true voice of authority? Because I have a sense maybe that when you say you go into ego, that's not really your voice of authority. And if we sort of unpacked it even further, you'd probably find that your voice of authority is a really strong, extraordinary voice that you can actually use instead of the voice that you classify as ego. Would that be correct?
Possibly, yes.
Yeah, because it's quite easy for us as women, especially. Are you in a corporate environment?
I work in directorship roles these days.
Okay, so working in directorship roles, you're in high-profile roles where it is important to be heard, isn't it? I would imagine, and important to have that voice of authority. But I've found that, especially too, if I sit on boards and things and places like that, it's important to come from your own genuine self and to not self-doubt yourself. But it's really the voice of authority is your true, unique voice. Now, in a few minutes, it's really hard to delve into it, but I'd suggest that, have you booked into the 15-minute session?
I'm not sure.
Oh, okay, cool. That's fine.
This was it. So.
This was it. Okay, cool. So what I suggest is book into the 15-minute session, and then you can. There's a link on the screen now, so book into that. There'll be a questionnaire and there'll be a time, and then I can speak to you in depth either tomorrow, Friday, or else on Monday, and then it's Australian times, but you know the difference, of course. And I'd love to talk further with you about that, because once I need to say from my own experience, my career went ahead when I actually trusted my voice of authority instead of the ego part. And it was a bit scary at first because it was about standing my ground on a lot of things, but that was about who I really was, and also showing my vulnerability as well. And I think this is very hard when we're women that are sort of what I call A-type women, to really trust and believe. And this is something that I learned as a psychotherapist. So I'd suggest that book into a session tomorrow, and I'd love to be able to explore this with you further. Does that sound like a good idea?
I'd really like that. Thank you.
Yeah, that'll be great. And Liz, it's terrific talking with you with another New Zealander. Good on you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So are there any more questions at this stage? Let me just go into the question box. Shall I answer questions? Just going to see if something else has come up again. Burge, can you see any more questions? Okay. Okay, someone said this link brings up a questionnaire. Is that all I need to do to book the call? I know with the people that Burge, can you just please type into the box if once someone clicks on the questionnaire, does that then take them to book the call? I think it does. I think it does, Jan. I think it because we tested it last night. I didn't go through the questionnaire, but I clicked on the link, and I'm pretty sure that it does bring up a calendar. I'm just going to go and just check here just a second. Okay, Jan, in the answer to your question, I've got your email. So if your name doesn't appear, if that's okay, if I can email you and I'll give you the times tomorrow and on Monday for a 15-minute call. So thank you for that question. Before I finish now, I'm just going to see if there's any more questions. Oh, okay, cool. Great, you can see it. Thanks, Jan. We were trying to unmute you then, and are you unmuted now?
Oh, yeah, yes.
Actually, it's a really bad line, but look, thanks. I understand now. So you've been able to get through and book a session, and I look forward to talking with you either on Friday or on Monday. And thank you for being on the call.
Thank you, Sally.
Okay, you go well.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'm just going to go back into the box and see if there's any more questions. Oh, great. Thank you, Jan. Yes. Well, I want to say I really appreciate that comment because it's my first ever webinar, and I have to be vulnerable, as I said to a few other people, because it's quite different than standing up on stage with my flute in my hand or working in a totally different way. I really appreciate that comment. So if there's no more questions, I'm going to bring everything to a close now. Let me just double check. And what I want to do is I want to thank everyone for being on this call. It's been a great experience for me, and it's an area that's really close to me because I've had to move out of stuckness so many times. I've had to work my way out of stuckness, and I know what it's like to move out of that place. It can be scary, it's the unknown, and it's also, I always like to think about it as being a way that you need a guide, you need someone to put a bit of, string or whatever in your hand and take you along that new road. Because if you don't have someone that's been on that road, it can be even more scary. So it is possible. I've done it so many times. That's why I enjoy teaching it. And I want to thank you for your attendance. So just in closing, I want you to remember 3 points. Vision, vision, vision. Put those 3D glasses on. And a great way of having a fun way of doing this is go to a $2 shop. Go and buy one of those books with the kids' books with the 3D glasses. Look at it and then start to think of your life. The second part is what's your voice of authority? What's your brand? Get in touch with your brand. Who's the unique you? And the third point is put it all together. Absolutely put it all together. And I look forward to talking with a few of you who booked in for the sessions tomorrow and on Monday. And go well, and thank you so much. Goodbye. And Burge, thank you for your help as well.